Folks, welcome back to the Hustle and Homes podcast. I am joined in the studio today by a very special guest, Jonathan Cameron of Cameron Home Inspections.
That's me.
And we're going to talk about probably one of the most integral parts of a real estate transaction, in my opinion. This is where a lot of things can come to light. They can go wrong. They can be resolved. A lot of decision making around this single step that is incorporated into the real estate transaction. And yeah, without further ado, John, please give us a little introduction. Tell us about your Absolutely.
So started home inspecting out of state. My wife and I moved here a couple years ago. Recently reopened for business around the new year. So things are really picking up, which good problem to have.
Yeah.
But been inspecting for 5 or 6 years now. I got my start working with investors, right? Guys that were buying large portfolios of what you would call a very rough fixer-upper type of thing.
Right.
And they wanted to know, hey, give me the nuts and bolts. What do I need to do to bring this house up to a safe and market standard? So kind of where I got my start, and that just snowballed from there, working with investors on their properties. And then that investor's like, hey, my brother's buying a house. You think you could do an inspection for him? And that's how I kind of got my start in the retail side of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
So I'm a ASHI member, American Society of Home Inspectors.
Okay.
Background verified. That's one of the things that comes with that. So
what does that mean, background verified?
So they do a verification, just a background check. So
okay.
You are who you say you are. You don't have any bad stuff on your record, kind of a thing. So
right.
Just your standard background check that you might have for employment somewhere or something like that.
Okay.
But it is a nice thing to be able to say that this is who I am, and I'm coming in your house as a stranger, but I'm all right.
Yeah. So. Yeah, definitely good.
Yep.
Have a little, backup information for everybody. And okay, so you start doing that, and when did you come to the Bitterroot?
About 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, but that whole time was spent working on our own projects. So
right. Okay.
Fixing up a house, and that took all of what we had. So it's home now. It's awesome, but there was no time to get back into inspections because had to get the house done before the snow flies, kind of a thing.
So now you're back into it. You're back in the full swing of things.
Yes.
I see you're always posting stuff on social media.
Yep.
You seem to be, you jumped right back into it, and things are pretty busy still, huh?
Yeah, they are busy. So made a really concerted effort to meet with realtors in the area.
Yeah.
Missoula, Ravalli County. It's kind of my service area.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Exactly.
You hit me up on Instagram, sent me a message, and we met for a coffee.
Yep.
And yeah, got to know the business and
Try
a
to
little
go
bit about you.
where the agents are, and Instagram happens to be a place where a lot of agents are very active.
True.
You in particular. I saw this podcast series, so I thought it was pretty unique because you don't see that very often.
Yeah.
It's usually here's the market update, here's
sure.
which is all important, but if everybody's doing that, it's kind of nice to.
Yeah, you got to try to find a way to break through the noise, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what better way to bring other members of the community to spotlight as well as doing something like this?
Right.
Because that's really the major goal with this is like, I get the opportunity to post things from this, but I also I really want it to be something that focuses on what else is going on in the community, what people are focus on the people that are doing these projects or
Absolutely.
have this small business and kind of make it a little more personal, right? Rather than just like, oh yeah, that's Jonathan Cameron from Cameron Home Inspections, and that's what he is. He's a home inspector. Yeah. Well, you're a human too. You do a lot more than that.
A lot more to it than just a business.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Knowing people, serving people, helping people. That's what I really like about doing what I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just looking at a house and here's 17 things that are wrong or whatever the case may be. Being able to instruct, to teach, that's part of what I really like to do and strive for, is that inspection report it's an educational tool. It's not just a report for a transaction, but, in a good example is a maintenance inspection. The person's not selling their house. They don't intend to.
True.
But they still want a good, unbiased, here's the condition of the house. And
here's the things that need to be fixed.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Things you need to look out for and so forth.
So I really enjoy the teaching aspect.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
No two clients are the same, know, but inspecting for a first-time home buyer versus inspecting for a general contractor, two completely different ways to present that information.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yep.
So from my experience with home inspections, basically what for anybody who hasn't purchased real estate yet, or sold real estate yet, when you get to that process of, you get the property under contract, there's a contingency in the buy sell for an inspection. And there's a lot of things that come with that, not just to do with the actual condition of the home itself, but that is an integral part of it. And so from our side of things, what I see is, if I'm representing the buyer, we find a home inspector they want to work with, we schedule that, they come in, I get the report, and they get the report, and we go over it together, and then we'll write up the inspection notice, and that has a list of items that have been discovered that we don't approve of, and then it'll have the remedy for those. And either it's, we ask the seller to fix that sort of thing, or we ask for some amount of money to be credited to the sale. And that's more or less it. So we basically just see the end result.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about the process that you go through.
Sure. So the process for any home inspection, at least from my perspective, is the same. And what I mean by that is I've inspected mobile homes. I've inspected multi-million-dollar luxury homes. I've inspected, the oldest house I inspected was 138 years old, and the newest was built in 2023. So my inspection is geared towards safety and functionality, right? Some people get spun up on code compliance, and that's it's tricky to say that, hey, this house isn't built to code when it's 100 years old, because codes always change. They change every couple of years. They get updated. So safety and functionality, those are my two questions I ask for every component of a house. Does it work? And more importantly, is it safe? Right? If I can say yes to both of those, that's good. Right? But you do have to look at houses considering their age and when they were built, because construction practices have changed.
Oh,
so
yes.
You do have to kind of tailor it to the age of the house. But in terms of my process, it's the same for every single house.
Okay.
Safety, functionality. But every major system and component of the house is looked at. And it's a visual inspection, right? So it's technically a limited visual inspection of permanently installed systems and components. It's kind of the verbiage, right? So that's everything from the roof to the foundation, the structure of the house itself, and then your furnace, your air conditioner, plumbing system. Everything that's in that house that's permanent gets looked at.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I can imagine that making comments on code especially in this area, can be a pretty big pitfall.
Absolutely, and that's why I avoid the C word.
Yeah.
Because I am not a licensed code inspector. Now, do I know about code? Yes. Do I study it extensively? Yes. Because I want to have that knowledge and be able to differentiate things from others, right? But I'm not a licensed code inspector, so I don't comment on code.
It's probably a smart thing to do.
Yeah. Because if, you comment on code for the electrical panel, but you don't comment on code for the stair riser height.
Yeah.
You go down the rabbit hole of things, but every aspect of residential construction follows some form of code, whether it's electrical code or the plumbing code or the IRC. All these codes, they are updated constantly, and you need to stay on top of them just for your own knowledge, right? You need to understand what's what. But in terms of commenting on them, generally code inspections are left up to a licensed code inspector, usually at the municipality, the city or the county, whoever runs it.
Yeah, and that generally falls under like new construction, or if you're doing a massive renovation in the home and that sort of thing.
Correct.
But if it's, like you said, if it functions and it's safe, then it should be okay. I mean, you run into that a lot. So we do. The way that I got started in real estate was helping my family with flipping, and so
Ooh, the F word.
Yeah.
Flippers.
But our goal, is to take. We find homes that you wouldn't normally be able to get financing on.
Right.
Bring it up to a financeable.
Kind of a standard
level, standard. So a bank would be willing to loan on it. You can get FHA, this sort of thing. Because otherwise, it's really just a cash deal because there's something wrong with, something wrong with the plumbing or something wrong with the well or whatnot, right? And so that's how we got started. And so we run into that quite a bit, where someone will a prospective buyer would get a little worked up about something being not up to code, and it's like, well, this house was built in 1975. It was up to code then. It still functions,
right?
And you'd open up a whole can of worms if you tried to repair it at this point in time,
right?
So
it's just not practical.
Yeah,
at that point, you tear it down and build a new one to code.
Yeah, if that's the route that you wanted to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I give you a hard time about the F word flipping.
Oh no,
I did that for a number of years.
Yeah.
Out of state, it was in St. Louis, but it's kind of a joke within the community.
Oh, for sure.
Home inspectors, we're going into a flipped house, But there's different levels of people who renovate properties. There's people that do it really well, and there's people that watched HGTV once and think they're going to make a quick buck.
Oh, I've seen some wild things out there, and just totally outrageous properties being, this home that's been renovated, this 100-year-old home that's been renovated to look like this modern thing that totally stands out from everything else around it. Right? It's completely non-conforming at that point, even if there are no like HOA regulations on it.
Right.
It still doesn't conform to the neighborhood in a way, and it's just like this eyesore. Like I've seen all sorts of things just from the visual aspect, and then I can only imagine where people get in there and they have this idea that I can just do everything myself and we'll fix it, and it ends up becoming what we termed here as a Bitterroot special.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you've seen many of those.
Yep. Bitterroot special, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand back in the day, 60s, 70s, 80s, you did what you could with what you had where you're at. And we might not have had the best availability for material or even, code knowledge. So, you walk into some scenarios, you're like, what on earth is going on here?
Right. But I've worked on some very rough, distressed properties, we'll call them. And there's always stuff that you're not anticipating.
Yeah.
As soon as you open up a wall or a ceiling or something, you always find stuff.
Always.
So.
Not usually anything good. We haven't found anything rewarding yet when we
Still
started.
Been looking for a wall full of like Al Capone's cash or something.
Like bearer bonds and gold and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the dream, right? Like get one of these old houses and you find the walls are insulated with money.
Yep. I have found some cool old newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
This one was from the early 40s, World War II era.
Oh, right on.
And it was just jammed up in kind of as insulation. We took down the ceiling, and there it was. And I'm reading this article about World War II in very typical terms, we'll call it, for news articles back then. But cool stuff like that.
Yeah, a little bit of history.
But never anything awesome and valuable yet.
Not yet. We're still hoping.
Yeah.
One of these times it's going to happen.
Yep.
So after we spoke last time, you sent me a link to going over the program that you use for the home inspections.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. And that's a little bit different than the way a lot of people do it, where they just send you the home inspection and you're like, here you go, figure it out yourself. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure.
About that program.
So I use Spectora software. It's one of the many reporting softwares that are available. I landed on that one after trying a number of other ones because it gave me the best, cleanest, most user-friendly finished product. Because ultimately, if you hire me to do an inspection, you're hiring me for that report. What's on paper or, in your email in this case. You can print it if you want, but we don't really do that anymore. But that's why I chose Spectora, because it is the best in my opinion. Easiest for me to use, easiest for me to customize, and the nicest for my client to go through. And I get the feedback all the time. Inspection report, super easy to understand, very concise, easy to follow, whatever the case may be. I hear it a lot, so long as I keep hearing that, I'll keep using Spectora.
Awesome, yeah.
But it also has a really cool feature, the one I sent you the video on, and it's a repair request builder. So basically, all of the issues we find in the house, you as the agent or the client can actually click that repair request builder option, and it pulls automatically all of those issues that we found into one page, and then you can assign custom text to them, a dollar amount like you were talking about if you're negotiating a price on that, or if you're negotiating a repair. So it pulls them from the report, keeps them in order. It pulls the original verbiage from the report, and it spits it out in a nice one-page PDF, with a total dollar amount or custom comments, whatever you see fit.
Awesome.
But you can go through. My inspections are thorough. I mean, I take my time. I'm not the in and out in an hour guy. But, if there's 150, 200 photos in that report, and we've inspected 75 different items, and we found 15 of them, rather than you having to go through the report for every one, you can create that repair request in 2 to 3 minutes.
Just select, you just select it and brings it all into one page, and then you can copy and paste it or whatever. And
so that's pretty valuable for agents who are negotiating.
It saves a ton of time,
rather than hand jamming it all yourself.
Yeah.
And copy paste.
Yeah, and it makes it much more efficient too, not just for time, but also you keep the language that's used in the report verbatim, rather than having to go back and type it or that sort of thing, and it keeps it consistent, which is a big deal as well.
Yep. And it's all nice and color coded too. So
well, who doesn't love that?
People love colors. We see colors and we know what. Okay, blue. Okay, that means that. Orange. That's a little more severe. Red.
Yep.
So it's nice in that regard as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. What sort of things come from what comes in what aspects of a home inspection do you think are less known about to the general public? So we kind of have the idea, you come in, you look at stuff.
Yeah.
But what sort of things tend to stand out more of like overlooked areas that people don't generally think about?
Well, I think when someone looks at a house, there's a emotional attachment many times. And I've been at inspections before, clients are there, and I'm doing my thing, and they're talking about the paint color, that they want to paint it, which is a very appropriate thing to be thinking about.
Sure.
But they're looking at cosmetic things, how the house is going to work for them and their family. Maybe not as much the technical aspects of it.
Right.
One example I would say of something that comes up frequently is vapor barriers in crawl spaces. That's that line of defense against both moisture from the soil as well as radon, right? Radon gas, pretty prevalent here in Montana. Something about the Rocky Mountains out here, we have a lot of it.
We do.
And can't see it, can't smell it, can't taste it. Don't know it's there, but it's the second leading cause of lung cancer-related deaths in the United States, behind smoking. So things like that out of sight and out of mind. Attics is another thing. I mean, you don't generally go up in your attic unless it's a finished space. And it's just, there's a hatch up there. Yeah, there's an attic, but how's the ventilation in that attic? I did an inspection a couple weeks ago when it was really cold, and it was an older house. And again, building practices have changed significantly. House was from the 60s, I think, maybe 70s. But there wasn't adequate ventilation or insulation. So all that heat was escaping into the attic and then condensing and freezing. And 100% of the attic structure was covered. It looked like a snow globe up there.
Oh, I saw this post.
And
yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, and that stuff will eventually melt and drip, and you'll get water problems.
Yep.
There was, I'll call it organic growth present, but that's another consideration. Can't call it mold technically because I didn't do a test on it. But if it looks like a duck and sounds like a duck, usually
it's a goose.
It's a goose,
yeah.
Right? But organic growth, you know what it looks like when it's covering a wooden surface, and that was a ventilation problem. Again, you can't really see it, or maybe you're not thinking about it. But things like that are either harder to access, they're kind of out of sight and out of mind. Those oftentimes are good instructional areas, to find these kind of conditions that need to be addressed. Or, vapor barrier as that example, those didn't exist back in the day. They're very common now. They're going to be in your newer houses, but older houses oftentimes don't have them, and we see kind of the second and third order effects from them. Yeah.
Are there any things that you see often? I'm not sure regularly, but often enough where it's something that the homeowner themselves could mitigate or fix or keep a prevention on something that
Yeah.
is kind of common?
Yeah. One of them that comes to mind, and it seems so simple, but gutters. If gutters, oftentimes they're just not present, like they just aren't there.
Yeah.
And that's that first line of defense to get that bulk water off the roof and away from the foundation. Water is detrimental to houses.
Yes.
In any form, whether it's solid or vapor or whatever, liquid, I guess, water, bulk water. But gutters being absent altogether is a thing I see quite a bit. Or the gutters are there, but they are full of stuff. Pine needles and debris, granules from the roof material itself as it kind of falls off. It ends up in those gutters, and that can cause them to clog. So gutter maintenance is one that seems kind of benign, but it's one that I notice quite a bit. Just making sure those are clear, before the rainy season gets here.
Yeah, the 2 weeks of rain that we usually get.
Exactly. But it comes down
It
hard.
does. Oh, it does, yeah.
Another kind of silly one, but the filters for the air handler,
Right.
making sure those filters are replaced. I was just at one earlier today before I came here, and pulled the filter out, and it just, it was, probably hasn't been changed in years, I would say, and really should be every 1 to 3 months on that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really simple one that oftentimes out of sight and out of mind. Other basic maintenance things, sealant, caulking around windows and doors and exterior areas.
Right.
That stuff has a lifespan, and it gets beat up by the elements here,
Mm-hmm.
and it will degrade. And that's a pretty easy fix. It can save you some serious headaches down the road. And it's a pretty easy DIY project to touch that up.
Yeah.
Same thing with painting. Exterior paint is kind of what I'm thinking, but getting that stuff touched up or repainted as necessary, because it gets beat up and has a lifespan. Every part of a house has a lifespan.
Yeah, it's true.
But in terms of a lot of the other things we find and look for, electrical issues, those generally best suited for an electrician to address, because there's a danger level there,
Oh, yeah.
a safety level there. Same with complex systems, a furnace replacement, air conditioner. Those generally aren't DIY projects. It's not saying that people don't DIY them or don't know how to, but those more technical things, I would definitely refer.
Yeah,
that
like
to.
on average.
Yeah.
So it's mostly like deferred maintenance kind of stuff.
That's a big thing.
Okay.
Deferred maintenance. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a job in and of itself
It is.
to own a home
It is.
and to keep up with those things.
And maintenance a full-time thing. I mean, one thing like exterior painting or the caulking we talked about, you don't have to do it every year, but
No.
Every decade or so you might want to consider it. Or seasonally for some things, if you have a fireplace, good idea to have that chimney inspected and cleaned, because it builds up all sorts of creosote and stuff.
Yep.
Having that cleaned before you use it for the season, that's a good one to do annually. But yeah, the gutter maintenance, an annual thing. Vegetation growing too close to the house, that can degrade the surface material.
Right.
Branches, you think a little branch blowing in the wind, well, if that branch is touching your roof or touching your siding, it's just going to degrade that area.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times with some houses that we worked on in the past. There's just one single pine tree branch that's kind of hanging on the roof, and
no big deal.
you look closer, and it's just it's completely rubbed off, and it's totally bare in that spot, just from a little bit of wind over the course of a year or two. And it's a big effect. There's a lot of homes around here that have, in my opinion, way too much vegetation too close to the house.
Yes.
I don't know. It must have been the fad back in the day or something to have so much shrubbery and lilacs and all this kind of stuff. The lilacs next to the house are, ooh, that one scares me.
A pest intrusion area too. You have vegetation close to a house, and that's just a super highway for whatever kind of bugs and stuff you don't want getting in.
Yeah.
So
and then you have the physical deterioration of things rubbing against stuff. You've got the roots that are growing into the foundation as well, and you just look at this stuff. You're like, wow. Just... All right.
Sewer pipes too. whether it's a
Yeah.
septic system
Yep.
or goes out to a main lateral in the city. Trees love the stuff that goes down the pipes and
Full of nutrients.
full of nutrients, the water and the nutrients, and they will find their way in, find roots inside sewer laterals all the time.
Yeah, that is a big deal. I always recommend that is getting a sewer scope done,
Yep.
especially in areas that are
Yep.
a little more grown.
And especially older houses too.
Yes.
Because the material they used back then was usually cast iron, and that has a lifespan. You know, and you start getting into an 80, 85-year-old house. When you poke your camera down there, you're going to see real quick the mineral deposits. We call it scaling. It's just minerals that build up, and it creates a rough surface on the inside, and that pipe is degrading and rusting and reforming, and those rough spots don't allow the stuff to flow as it should.
Yep.
Broken pipes. I mean, I've found chunks of cast iron that are just missing altogether. They're laying on the bottom of the pipe. Something above caused it to break, and there's a chunk of cast iron this big. Just kind of go over it with the camera head, but you know, modern install is generally PVC.
Yep.
Right. But even on new construction houses, I have found stuff that it's hard to say the exact cause because it's buried underground and you're using a camera through the pipe from a clean out. But when you see a low spot, we call it a belly, right? And it's a low spot in the pipe, and that's either faulty installation, maybe some settling occurred there. Hard to narrow down exactly what happened, but that low spot in the pipe will actually collect debris, right? And that can lead to a clog. Inspector I know in Texas did a new construction house recently, and they're like, yeah, let's go ahead and get the sewer scope done anyway, even though it's brand new, and a different contractor had run a foundation stake, like they were doing a pad for a set of stairs, and that just happened to be right where the sewer lateral came under, and they drove a foundation stake or a form stake right through the pipe, right? So
yeah, you can
stuff like that happens.
Yeah, you can never be too sure.
Yep, and it's cheap peace of mind to do that sewer scope.
Yeah, right. How much do you charge for?
With the inspection, $125.
Okay.
Right, and if I have to pull a toilet, it's a little bit more because more work involved, and I replace the wax ring, replace the bolts if I need to.
And that is a fraction of the cost that it would be to repair.
Yes.
That sewer line.
Yes, and if that sewer line, as they do, if that break happens to be under your foundation wall, you know, you can see where that's going.
Yeah, that's definitely something you'd want to find out prior to purchasing the home for sure. Otherwise, that cost falls on you.
Yep.
And once you get past that contingency point, you own it, basically.
Yep.
You know?
I can show you some pretty nasty videos and pictures of stuff I've found in sewer laterals.
Oh, I bet you've seen some wild things.
Yes. Yes, I have.
What is like some of the craziest stuff you've seen on a home inspection?
Well, in that train of thought specifically, these roots were just a mass of roots and worms, like night crawlers that you'd go fishing with. 3 or 4 of them just squirming around in the root mass. It was, I mean, I thought it was kind of cool, but kind of gross, I guess. But
hey, life finds a way, you know.
Yeah, other things that are fairly common. We kind of talked about it earlier, but you know, Handyman Hank is what sorry if there's a handyman out there named Hank that is very good at what they do, but Handyman Hank often strikes. You know, it seemed like a good idea, and
I used the cheapest one,
right?
You know?
And you're just scratching your head. What were they thinking? You know, out here in older houses, we see vermiculite insulation quite a bit,
right?
Which it's not guaranteed to contain asbestos, but it's highly likely.
Yeah.
You know, that's super common, and as long as it's not disturbed, you know, you don't. But as soon as you start poking holes in the ceiling and you get that shower of vermiculite, it looks like cat litter if you're not familiar with it. But yeah, I see that quite a bit, and try to impress upon people that, hey, it's pretty common to just blow in insulation over the top, but don't mess with it.
Yeah.
You know? Don't. Friable is the term when it becomes airborne and brittle in the fibers.
Friable.
Yeah, friable. It's when some asbestos was used for a lot of stuff for many years because it's very durable It's very heat resistant and it has a good insulation factor. So, pipe wrap, insulation for ducting, floor tiles, ceiling tiles, popcorn ceilings,
Yeah.
even siding and roof materials. Don't see those as much, but they're definitely out there. It's when it becomes brittle and it gets disturbed and becomes airborne is when it's a concern.
So I learned a new word today. Look at that.
Yeah,
friable.
Friable.
All right.
Right. But in terms of other crazy things, think of anything. I found one the other day that was kind of interesting. I did an inspection in Stevensville, and it was during the very cold period of time we had. It was -26, and went up on the roof, and the furnace flew, blowing the hot air out as it should, but it was so cold that it was condensing and freezing and creating an ice sculpture on the roof. So it was dripping down off the furnace flue and then freezing, and the water was actually freezing up under the shingles and up under the flashing around that pipe, and the ice itself was actually pulling those things up.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was an interesting one.
Always something.
Yeah, you find weird things in crawl spaces periodically.
That's true.
Whether it's, the lost cat that nobody knew was down there. I've found that more than once.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, yeah. I found what I think was a raccoon one time. Hard to say at that point. It was just, kind of a
mummified almost.
Yeah. I found a snake in a crawl space once. It was dead, but recently. But you find beer cans and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's the one I've seen the most. It's just
Yeah.
like old beer cans. Like
Yeah.
We found a stash of Olympia beer bottles from the 80s and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting, a little
Yeah.
bit of history. And I don't know, some places around here, people tend, I don't know what they were thinking, but they're just like, we'll just use our crawl space as an extra trash bin.
Yep. I've seen packing peanuts, the foam peanuts. Have you seen those used as insulation before? Not in an entire attic, but they're like, wow, we got a couple bags of it.
Throw it up there.
Yeah.
All right, why
See
not?
It works, so. Yeah.
Don't know how viable that would be as a insulator, but
Right. Most of the quote-unquote funny stuff, at least in my opinion, is not stuff I'm inspecting. And by that I mean it's cosmetic.
Right.
Someone has a very eclectic sense of decor or something like that.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
who am I to judge? But
Hey, everybody's got a taste.
they got a taste. But you see that kind of stuff
Sure.
a lot. Because the stuff you see on listing photos, everything's blue or beige or gray or, your standard, whatever the trending palette is. But someone that's done their own work in their own unique way.
A bedroom with 3 different colored walls
Yes.
and that sort of thing. You
Yep.
see that. You see that often.
Yeah.
But it's only paint. You can
Mm-hmm.
get over that pretty easily.
Yes. Yep.
Much easier fix than an overseen broken sewer line.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that's a big one.
That is a big one.
Yep. I've found, unfortunately, I do meth sampling as well.
Okay.
And that's that's a thing everywhere.
Yeah.
So testing for methamphetamine, that comes back positive occasionally, and
Yeah, that's an expensive cleanup as well.
very, very much so. Yep.
Definitely one that you don't want to overlook either if you
Yeah.
have a suspicion.
Yeah, and it's really hard to, you can't just say, oh, this is a quote unquote fixer upper house that this is a meth house versus that luxury house over there. There's no meth in there.
You never know.
When I went through my training program with the state, they were giving examples of $2 million houses in a very affluent area and popping positive for meth. You just don't know.
Is there anything that kind of gives that away, or is it just like?
Well,
how would you recommend getting, or like what sort of scenarios kind of send red flags in your mind?
Well, there can be residue. There can be, looking at it, you can't tell what it is. But if you see weird stains on the wall, weird odor in the house, the telltale ones like that. I mean, one example, there's a deadbolt lock on a bedroom. Like what's that there for?
Oh.
Something like that.
Okay.
Stuff that's just a little odd, but it's really hard to say, hey, this absolutely means there's illicit drug activity going on in here. You can't tell, So But those are some
Okay.
some giveaways. Weird cameras mounted in places. Again, people monitor their houses as they see fit, but
True.
that is part of the training that I received.
Okay.
Stuff to look for. But you just don't know, and it's like you said, it can be very expensive to clean up.
Yeah.
And that's reserved for, a certified cleanup contractor.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do a DIY on that one if it were me.
No, definitely not. That's one of those things you definitely want to hire.
Yeah,
hire out for.
There's a few of them that are certified. It's through the state DEQ program.
Oh, okay.
But they have a list of certified contractors. There's a few here in the Bitterroot and Missoula area. But yeah, that is something I find periodically.
All right.
Yep.
Good to know.
Yep.
Good to know. So what else? What else can you tell me about your business?
Well, let me think. We talked about a lot of it. I am a Navy veteran.
That's true.
And I like helping other veterans,
Mm-hmm.
Law enforcement, first responders. I do offer discounts to those kind of organizations and people. Same with first-time home buyers. I remember being one myself, and it was like, whoa, what is going on? What, the inspection, is that the appraisal? Things that at the time I didn't know about, and the home inspection is just one part of a massive undertaking when you're purchasing a house.
Yeah.
Right. So I do really like helping first-time home buyers because I remember how it was, what it was like.
Sure.
So I'd say those are the two biggest things about my company. The veteran discounts, the first-time home buyer discounts, because I like to help them out.
That offers an opportunity for education too.
Yes.
Yeah, especially with the first-time home buyers.
Right. Right.
That's what I enjoy about first timers as well, is that you get to go through that process of explaining how everything works, and it's kind of that classic philosophy of to really master something is when you can teach it, and so when you have the opportunity to get into the really detailed stuff of, well, this is the process, and here's kind of what we're going through. Here's some things. It helps you hone in on your own skills as well.
And I don't believe there's such thing as stupid questions, right? There's especially when you're possibly making the largest financial decision of your life.
Oh yeah.
Ask me questions. It's my job. I think it's my job to make sure you are comfortable with the answers that you receive, and that you understand them.
Yeah,
right? So,
that's a big factor. Is you understand the process, understand what's going on, because then, that's really what my job is, and your job is as well, is to present information in a digestible fashion, and then be able to explain and help if there are any questions that come up. And my job as a real estate agent is not to tell my clients anything. Right. It's to help them find that information. And so, because it's not, I can't tell them, I can suggest that we need to get a home inspection, but I can't tell them, even if I see visually myself, if we can all see it, that, oh, it looks like there's something wrong there. It looks like there's something wrong there. For me, it means nothing. And then, so you'd have to just point them in the right direction and really help guide them to make the best decision, basically, is what it is. And that's something I really enjoy about the business, is like you just get to, you're a support role more than anything else. It's like, yes, we're providing you information, we're providing you with directory to people that can help you make this decision. Right. And then it's your decision. And that's the goal too, is to make it, give this person agency that they are making the correct decision for themselves. Yeah.
And the more information, the better, I think, from my perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And I have a unique perspective. Maybe it's not unique. There's a lot of contractors or people involved in the trades that are also home inspectors. I have a background in residential construction. Right. I worked for a custom home builder in high school. Learned a thing or two there. Joined the Navy. Saw the world for a little while. And then I got back into residential construction as a project manager for these large-scale redevelopments. And so I do have a baseline knowledge of how the house goes together and how it works. And being able to explain that's really important to me. I don't want to do something if I can't explain it to you. right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
What are you hiring me for if I can't explain it to you? And I call it an open door policy. Please don't come to my house and knock on my door, but give me a call, right? We do the inspection, right? It takes, let's say, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever. We do a walkthrough, maybe it's 6 hours. Um, you get your report same night or maybe the next morning, no later than 24 hours though.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be, or it could be overwhelming because everything got looked at in the house. Everything got tested.
Right.
In entirety, and there's a lot of information there, and it's going to take some time to digest. And part of what I offer is that open cell phone policy. You got a question for me? Please call me. People do it all the time. Hey, this was in the report. Can you explain that a little? Like what does that mean, or how serious is this, or whatever the case may be. Because during the final walkthrough, we kind of go over the high level. We spend half an hour. We also need to be respectful of the seller's time.
Yeah.
Because if the house is occupied, they have vacated the house for us to do this, right? So try to keep it concise, but it's hard to get through an entire inspection report in its entirety in half an hour.
Yeah.
Right. So being available to answer those questions after the fact is pretty important, I think. And I have clients call me all the time. Hey, clarification on this, or what do you think about that, or I saw this, but I just need a little more info.
Right.
Right. What I'm not going to do is tell you, and I get asked this quite a bit, like, well, would you buy this house? That's not for me to decide. I have a different comfort level.
Right.
It's not the house that I'm going to live in or raise my family in. That it's completely different. So I will tell you the facts about the house,
Yep.
my professional opinion on them, and the course of action that I would recommend, right? I'm not an electrician. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an HVAC tech. So you're going to see these recommendations as part of the inspection. Hey, here's the issue. Here's its potential ramifications. Here's who you need to talk to address that.
Yep.
Right? And if it's a simple DIY thing, I'm not going to say, hey, you need to have a licensed electrician replace the outlet cover plate because it's cracked. But if you have a serious issue with your electrical system, I use a thermal camera as part of each of my inspections, and that's a good way to see electrical components that are overheating. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And if that's the case, well, that's problematic, right? And that needs to be addressed by a pro,
Right.
in my opinion. Don't see it a lot, but occasionally. But anyway, so the kind of the report format, that's what you can expect is here's the issue, here's what that issue means, and here's who to talk to about that issue.
Yeah, that thermal camera thing is pretty interesting. There's a lot you can discern
Yes.
from that.
Yeah, it's I have a problem, and it's self-diagnosed, and it's called GAS, gear acquisition syndrome. Anytime there's a new tool, new piece of equipment, I got to get that. So, but it's thermography. There's a lot of science behind it.
Right.
It's not just okay. These colors. Okay, that's blue. Therefore, it's wet. That's not what it means. That's red. Therefore, it's hot. There's a lot of science behind it in terms of reflectivity of surface materials, emissivity, transmissivity, absorption. There's a lot of stuff that you have to take into account when you're using a thermal camera. So I am a level 1 ITC certified thermographer. So I have the equipment and the knowledge to use it. I'm not saying if I gave somebody a thermal camera and they point at, oh yeah, there's missing insulation. A lot of it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But a lot of it you do have to take the big picture into consideration.
Right. So how many levels are there?
3.
There are 3 levels?
3 levels, yep.
What's level 2? Is that specifically related to cats?
That one is related to cats, so I'm not there yet. I see where you're going with that. So I have this thing on my Instagram page. We've got some cats at home, and one of them, I've been accused of fat shaming more than once now on Instagram because...
Oh, hey, what?
She's a fat cat. She is.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And she curls up next to the wood stove and rolls around, and she's fat. It is what it is. And love her to death, but she makes some interest. So I post a lot on Instagram. Most of it's home inspection related, findings from the field, or I saw a cool little doorbell today when I was doing that meth test. I'm like, wow, this is cool because it's an old house, and it's not, you don't push a button and it dings somewhere else. It's just a bell that rings on the other side. Cool, interesting things like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. I think it's interesting. But I've been posting these thermal videos of this fat cat next to the fireplace, and I might get 100 views or maybe 1,000 on a home inspection related thing. I have one video of her in a box, sitting in a box with a thermal camera making a joke video, and it's nearly 1 million views.
What?
Yeah.
No
Last
way.
I checked, it was like 890,000 or something.
That's awesome.
So
people love their cats.
People love their cats. So I'm a dog guy. My wife is a cat lady, and we met in the middle, and now we have 4 animals in the house.
And 3 of them are cats.
3 of them are cats.
Oh, I guess. Wow, look at that.
Yep.
That's how it always works out, too,
Yeah.
Yep.
You
get the dog person, the cat person, you always end up with more cats.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Well, they just kind of come when they want to,
They do, and they're low maintenance. They're easy.
They're easy, and they look good on a thermal camera.
And we have the automatic litter. That was one thing. It's like, if we're having cats, I'm not dealing with cat litter. Like,
oh, you got like a little robot?
The robot
little
thing.
Litter robot?
Litter robot, yeah.
Really?
Worth its weight in gold.
Awesome.
And they are not paying me to say that. I mean, it's cool.
Hey, right on.
Yeah, so if you have cats and you're looking for easy litter maintenance, it weighs them too, which is wild. You can track their weight.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
And there's an app for everything now. So
Of course.
You're just like, oh, yeah, that's the cat that was there.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll keep
But
track on the cats.
It's pretty handy if you need to leave town for a couple days, take a trip. That thing it just works.
Automatic cleaning and yeah.
Yep.
Hey.
It's got a sensor in it, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Love it.
So, if you go to my Instagram page, you'll see some cats. You'll also see a majority home inspection stuff. I post probably 4 times a week, and once a week is a cat thing now because they get so much traction.
Hey.
And I got to have my social clout,
That's right.
Right.
It's also, that's what I love. You got to incorporate a little bit of your own personality in there, make people see the person that you are. And
because, like, to our earlier point, we're all humans.
That's right.
I'm a home inspector, but I have cats. I enjoy grilling.
And you like fat shaming animals? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, people are just, I don't, complete strangers online. I don't know if they're serious, but you're fat. Your cat's not fat. You're the fat one. Like, well, okay.
Thanks.
I guess.
That's real nice of you guys.
Yeah.
Makes me feel good. No, yeah, there's a lot of that going on these days, but what are you going to do?
Yep.
Hey, post more cat videos. That's all I
I'm
going to
continue posting.
Please
cat
do.
videos.
Keep it up. I
and
love
the dog too. He's getting his kind of intro into the gram as well.
Okay.
So
all right, we'll keep an eye out for that one too.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, John, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it.
It was
great to get into the nitty-gritty of inspections and all that cool stuff.
Yeah.
And tell people how they can follow you, get in contact with you.
Yeah. So Instagram, Cameron Home Inspections, _ Cameron _ home _ inspections.
Okay.
Info at CameronHomeInspections.com. Make sure it's plural inspections, otherwise it goes to a dude in Tennessee. I found that out. Quick story. I got a review from somebody, and my only 1-star review ever. I was doing really well with reviews until this one. And this lady is just letting me have it. He's lying on his website, and he's talking about his daughter, and he doesn't even have a daughter. I'm like,
oh no,
my daughter? I don't even have kids. What are you talking about? And so I do some digging into this. I'm a bit of a sleuth online, and I figure out that this lady is the disgruntled, I think, cousin by marriage or something, now ex-cousin by marriage, if there is such thing, to a home inspector in Tennessee with the same name. And she left a very scathing review for me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I responded to it. It's like I wanted to say but you got to respond to negative reviews, because if I get a bad review, like, I need to improve what the service I'm providing. But this one was completely unfounded. So I still responded to it. Say, hey, I think you got the wrong guy, and she didn't take it down. I said, hey, would you mind removing this? No response. And I reached out to Google and said, hey, this is for a different company. No response. And 6 months later, after requesting it about once a month, they finally took it down.
Oh, good.
But I talked to the named company in Tennessee, and he kind of gave me the story of the family drama.
Mm.
He's like, I'm sorry, I'll talk to her. This is a mess. But anyway, that was quite the tangent for how you can find me. Cameron Home Inspections, plural.
Plural, yeah.
Yep.
Unless you're in Tennessee.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yep. And then 406-306-1331 is my phone number.
Perfect.
So call, text, schedule online if you want. Basically, I try to be a one-stop shop, right? So if I offer the service, it means I'm qualified to do it. And I don't offer things that I am not knowledgeable in or qualified to do, right? So I try to be the one touch point for you as an agent or for the client who needs a diverse set of stuff, right? Because home inspection is one thing, but it's limited. It's a limited visual inspection. Thermography doesn't fit that description. Sewer scope inspection doesn't fit that description because it's not a readily visible component of the house. You have to use a specialized camera. Same with radon. You know, all the normal stuff you would imagine, I do offer those. So
okay,
yeah,
right on.
Try to be that one-stop shop.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming in. I really appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, thank you out there for tuning in to another episode of the Hustle and Homes podcast. We'll be back with another episode shortly.
Awesome.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks.